Okay, we're back for our last section of our sentence structure packet. And you have learned how to write a complete sentence, check for a complete sentence, how to fix the fragment if it isn't a complete sentence. You've learned what a simple, compound, and complex sentence is. And now we're going to talk about run-ons and comma splices and how to fix them. So to begin, a run-on sentence is a sentence that has two independent clauses or two complete sentences that are joined together and there is no conjunction. That's the first thing you're writing down on your fill-in notes on page 10. So for example, if you use the is it true that trick and you check a run-on, like the examples listed below, you're going to be like breathless. So is it true that Bob has two sisters? His favorite is Rita. You're really pushing your air out to get through that sentence because there's too much information in that sentence. There's two ideas jammed together in one, and you can't do that. So the second example of a run-on there, is it true that I love going to horror movies? They always scare me. Again, too many ideas in there. You're almost losing your breath reading it. And a lot of kids think, oh, I'm just going to put a comma in it because it's a long sentence, but that doesn't fix it. Okay, so every sentence needs to have one idea or it needs to be a compound sentence. When you try to fix those really long sentences and you just shove a comma in there, you make something that's called a comma splice. A comma splice joins two independent clauses together or two complete sentences with a comma only. And you cannot do that. It just makes a different type of run-on. It's still a run-on. So is it true that Joey went to the grocery store? He needed to buy eggs for supper. Okay, those are two different ideas there. They cannot just be separated with a comma. That makes it a comma splice, which is a grammar error. Okay. So if you are somebody who writes really long sentences and tries to fix them with a comma only or doesn't punctuate them at all, there are three ways that you can fix them. So I'm going to give you an example of a run-on with a comma splice. I went to the mall. We also went to the grocery store. Okay. So if you were going to check this with is it true that, and you check both sides, you're going to get a yes on both sides because they're complete sentences. But unless there's a comma and a conjunction between them, making it a compound sentence, you cannot have a sentence that's structured like this. Okay. So is it true that I went to the mall? Yes, I went to the mall. That's a complete sentence. Is it true that we also went to the grocery store? Yep, we went to the grocery store too. Also a complete sentence. You cannot have a sentence that has two yeses on each side of the comma without having a comma and a conjunction between it. It's a run-on. So you can fix it in three ways. Your first fix, which you are writing down, you can make it two sentences by adding a period in between. You separate the two ideas of the sentence. I went to the mall, period. Capitalize your next sentence. We also went to the grocery store, period. Okay. You make two simple sentences and you've fixed that run-on. That is one way you can fix it, and that is absolutely fine if you choose to do that with your sentences. Fix two, you can make a compound sentence by adding a comma and a conjunction. Then you can have two complete sentences on both sides of your comma, but only with that magic fix of a comma and a conjunction. I went to the mall, comma, and we also went to the grocery store. That comma and make it okay. Or the last way, you can insert a semicolon, which is a comma with a little dot above it. And that makes it okay because you're separating your clauses. I went to the mall, semicolon. We also went to the grocery store. Okay. Again, no one fix is better than the other. If you were doing your own writing, your own essay writing or paragraph writing, I would vary the way that you're fixing your run-on so your sentence structures are different and interesting. If you make a if you make a simple sentence after simple sentence, it's going to start being choppy and repetitive. So if you vary the way that you fix those run-ons, it helps make your writing more sophisticated and interesting. So let's do some practice. Okay, please turn to page 11. On this page, you're going to fix run-ons. And you're going to do that one of those three ways. You can make them two sentences. You can turn them into a compound sentence, adding a comma and a conjunction, always in that order. Comma, conjunction, always in that order. Or you can use a semicolon, which is that comma with a little dot above it, okay? Any three of these are fine to fix your sentences. You're only going to fix your sentence in using one of those ways. I'm going to show you the examples of how you could do all three of those for the first two that we do together, okay? Choose one of those fixes to write down as your example, but on page 11, I want you to use all three of these fixes at least one time. Okay, so please don't just make them two sentences every single time. I want you to practice fixing them using two sentences, making them compound sentences, and using a semicolon. So I want to see those at least once on your paper. So number one says, I like football, comma, it's the greatest sport. Is it true that I like football? It's the greatest sport. Too much information in that. Okay, you have the idea that you like football. That's one idea. And then you have the idea that it's a greatest sport. Too much information. So if you check it, you're going to have a yes on both sides. One way to fix that is to make it two sentences. I like football, period. It's the greatest sport, exclamation point. That is a fix. You can also make it a compound sentence. I like football, comma, and it's the greatest sport, exclamation point. That fixes it as well. Or you can add a semicolon. I like football, semicolon, it's the greatest sport. Again, you just are fixing that sentence one time, so you can pick one of those examples to write down on your paper under number one. Number two, my mom and dad like boating. We have 3 boats. This is a run-on. It's too much information. There's 2 ideas there. So you can separate those 2 ideas into 2 sentences. My mom and dad like boating, period. We have 3 boats. You can make it a compound sentence. My mom and dad like boating, comma, and we have 3 boats. That works. And again, you can use any conjunction, any of those fanboy conjunctions. Remember, back to your notes in section 2 of your sentence structure packet. As long as it makes sense in the sentence, the conjunction is fine. Or the third way, you can add a semicolon. My mom and dad like boating, semicolon, we have 3 boats. Notice that when you use the semicolon, you don't need to capitalize the following sentence. It just makes it linked together by clause, and it makes it grammatically correct, okay? So for homework, you are going to go back to this page and you're going to finish 3 and 4 using one of those sentences. Sentence fixes, sorry. So there are 4 sentences total, and you need to use at least 3 different fixes. And for the 4th sentence, you can use whichever one you decide is you're most comfortable with. Okay. So pause there for a minute. Turn to page 12. This one is a comma splice fun sheet. Okay, and the directions say, read the following sentences. Some are comma splices, meaning they're run-ons that have the comma in between, and we're just trying to fix it that way, which doesn't work. And some are just fine, meaning it's a complete sentence. If the sentence is a comma splice, we're going to write CS in the blank. If the sentence is just fine, we're going to write JF in the blank, meaning it's a complete sentence. So we're going to make ourselves a key again. So write this somewhere on your paper, top, bottom, fit it somewhere. I don't care where, as long as it's on your paper. If your answer is a JF, you're meaning that it's just fine. It's a complete sentence. Or your other answer option is CS, meaning comma splice, which means it's a run-on and it's not a complete sentence. Okay, so fit that somewhere. And let's do the first 2 together. Okay, we're going to use is it true that to help you check each side of the sentence to decide, because there are some options with that, and we're going to try to figure these out. So for the first one, because you ate first, there was nothing left. So let's test the first part of that sentence. Is it true that because you ate first? Well, what happens because I ate first? That is incomplete. It's a fragment because we don't have enough information. So that side is a no. Let's check the other side. Is it true that there was nothing left? Yes, there was nothing left. So that is a complete sentence. So with a no on one side of the sentence as a fragment attached to a yes on the other side of the sentence, we know that that is a complex sentence and that is a complete sentence, and it is JF, just fine. Number 2, I like you. I think you're the coolest cat in town. Let's check both sides of that sentence. Is it true that I like you? Yes, I like you. No, I don't like you. Either way, that's a complete sentence. And the second part of that sentence, is it true that I think you're the coolest cat in town? Yes, you're the coolest cat in town. No, you're not the coolest cat in town. Either way, that's a complete sentence. We cannot have 2 yes answers on each side of that comma without it being a compound sentence. You must have the comma and the conjunction included to make it correct. Without that comma and a conjunction, it's a comma splice. So your answer is going to be a CS, right? So your homework is to go back and finish page 11, fixing those run-ons, and then you're going to continue working on page 12 and finishing the comma splice fun sheet as well, okay? This part of the packet finishes out your sentence structure unit, and we're going to be doing some review and continuing to talk about these as we keep moving on through English. So again, finish your homework and we will discuss them in class together.